Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the internet, welcome back to Monday Night Bull. My name is Tudor, and alongside me, I've got none other than the Regent himself, Kieran, my man. How are you doing on this fine Monday evening?
I'm buzzing, mate. I can't wait. I love Buell. I always look forward to that Buell because it's like the start of your week. It gets you up, it gets you ready. I mean, it makes that Monday a little bit sweeter when you get to see university students throwing games, just going at each other's throats.
Throwing games is definitely one aspect of why Bull is such a special platform. We are not going to be wasting all too much time this evening because we are actually going to be jumping into the action relatively quickly, but there are naturally a couple of points and a couple of conversations that we desperately do need to have before we actually do hop into our first matchup, which, by the way, is going to be Frogs versus Combat Wombats. Naturally, the rest of the schedule, the rest of the matches that we have technically on hold for you guys afterwards. We've got the Ludens going up against Team Trident. That is going to be taking place at roughly around 7 p.m. BST, so in an hour from now. Then to close off the evening, we've got Veggie Patch going up against IOM. That is the TLDR of the schedule that we've got this evening. Now, Cairo, Frogs versus Wombats. This, to kick off our Monday night, is going to be a relatively interesting matchup, and the main reason why I'm saying that is because of CW's performance last week. They desperately need themselves a win. Sure, they are standing in a couple of points altogether. They have got a single one, but in case if you missed out on last week's matchup, they played against PW, against Poggy Woggy, and the very, very sort of disappointing factor about that particular matchup was the fact that, well, CW, they managed to clench defeat from the jaws of victory. It was the exact opposite result as to what they were expecting. So, naturally, coming into tonight's matchup, they are in desperate need of some points.
Yeah, they really are, and when you've got a team like Frogs who have been popping off, I mean, they've not been defeated so far in the past two Playdays.
Nope.
It definitely maybe shows warning signs for Combat Wombat coming up against them. But on top of that, Poggy Woggy, right, they've had a great couple of play days so far, and then you're coming up, I mean, Combat Wombats have showed that they can dominate a team who are at the top of the table, and if that's the case, then easily we could see them reproduce that performance. I've spoke to Call Me Dicta, I've spoke to GMXC, and when they were kind of doing NSC stuff, and they were saying that they were really frustrated with that defeat. And obviously, I mean, you're going to capitalise on your mistakes, you're going to VOD review, you're going to try and learn from where you went wrong, and I could easily see them learning, especially against a team like Frogs.
Yeah, there is also one more very, very interesting thing that we actually have to point out in this particular evening, because the narrative that I'm going to try to build up for this evening is the fact that we have got essentially a two-horse race. That is actually something you have to keep out for you have to watch out for in the corner of your eye. Naturally, both the Frogs as well as the Ludens, they are currently actually tied for pole position. They are both sat on 6 points. And the only reason why Ludens is actually sat on the first seed is because of the fact that they have they have a round differential of +6, which trumps that of the Frogs by just a single round in general. Naturally, both teams, they're going to be going up, not necessarily against each other, but they're going to be playing regardless this evening. And given the Frogs' overall performance, one would expect that a matchup against CW should be relatively cut and dry. And unless it goes the full distance past those 12 rounds, then it should be 3 easy points to bag for CW. On the other side of the spectrum, though, for Ludens, they're going up against Team Trident as well, which is currently sat on, well, 8th position. So I'm already going to get a little bit antsy and throw out my prediction. I think both of these two squads are going to nab themselves the full 3 points. Exactly what the means to that specific end are going to be, I really can't say that early on.
Yeah, well, I'm going to mention a word that probably a certain NA caster will probably come to my house at some point during the week, but I think the coming matches are going to be absolute barn burners. I mean, we can't look past the performance of Combat Wombats. Yes, they threw. I don't think they'll Combat Wombats will say anything about it. They'll know they've thrown. They'll be frustrated with that throw, and I could easily see them pushing on and actually getting a win this week. They have the quality. The only thing that I would say potentially is maybe players like Kenshu, players like Vulcanoid, they need to step up. I was having a little look over the ratings. Vulcanoid with a 0.44, Kenshu with a 0.6 rating so far.
Not great.
It's not great, but the thing is though, performances can be raised, and I mean, all it takes is a couple of kills on maybe a round, and then next thing you know, it starts to be that snowball effect. But I mean,
It definitely, yeah, it definitely could be. And naturally, on the subject of those two players as well, they have naturally entered the conversation, but not necessarily to the point that we actually want to, we want to discuss them positively. We want to ensure that each and every single player that does participate in Bool is able to perform to their maximum potential and just be as potent as possible in each and every single playdate. I hope that by the end of this particular matchup on the side of CW that we can bring back the likes of Kieran as well. We can bring back the likes of Call Me Dick the Vulcanoid, or not Kieran, excuse me. I was thinking of you. Your name is Kieran, obviously. No, I was thinking of Kensho. Hopefully the next time that we do talk about these players is going to be in a much more positive lighting, because naturally the likes of Dicta, for example, they can go absolutely bombastic without even a moment's notice. They can just immediately flip a switch and go to town. That is the kind of energy that they need to bring this evening against the Frogs.
The reason why I'm highlighting those two players is the players that we both know can easily pop off, right? Whether on the university scene, everybody kind of knows each other and knows what everyone's capable of, and everyone knows that Vulcanoid and Kensho, formerly Wife, can really chip in and actually do some damage to their opposition. So that's why I just wanted to highlight. This where could be potentially the problems are. But we look towards Frogs, right? And you look towards the players that they've had. They've had Heizo subbing in a couple games, but they've got TXE and Hazard, right? These two players have been popping off, and it's actually crazy to see. TXE has an average rating of 1.63 over the two matches. Kudos, I don't care who you are, a rating of 1.63 is crazy.
You should, for one, care about who I am, because naturally we are co-workers. We do have to yell at pixels together, so that's the only concern that I'm going to be actually raising about that. Now, we are actually just about to hop into matchup, and unfortunately enough, we don't have an actual map veto graphic, but I guess it isn't even necessary whatsoever. You saw it, ladies and gents. We're heading off to Borg, and not exactly how I thought Monday Night Bull was going to start, but it can only get better from this moment onwards, in terms of maps.
Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, though, Tudos, I always like to make a little comment about the meta that we're currently in when it comes to recent changes we've seen. I don't think Oregon is very much Boregan anymore. I'd probably say the most boring map would potentially be Cafe, maybe even Clubhouse, because it's the same stuff that happens every time. But True. Oregon always has been really explosive in the past couple of weeks.
Very, very true. And the one example that I'm actually going to pull out of the back pocket, my back pocket, to actually reinforce that is the fact that, the Frogs, they actually had a very, very stellar performance in the opening week of Bool Season 3, in which they did play on Oregon. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was against Atlas, and that was a relatively close affair. It took all 11 rounds, but the main reason why the Frogs were able to finally clench that victory, not necessarily all too convincingly, but before matters got from bad to worse, is because of the fact that they had extraordinarily strong showings on those tertiary bomb sites, which, if they're able to maintain that exact same level of strength in this particular evening, then I'm pretty sure that they can get the jump on CW relatively early on, since they're also starting off on the defense.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to give a shout out to Liquipedia admin Spack, I believe it is, that's doing the stats. He's doing amazing stuff, and it just kind of shows you the side statistics of who's been winning on Oregon, and it's actually fairly even. 53.7% in favour of the defense. That's minimal margins. That's a couple of sites.
It is.
In fact, literally, it is 3 sites. That's the difference. That's crazy.
It is. It's really, really crazy, and especially, speak of the devil, by the way, I was actually just about to bring up that top floor dorms bomb site. It has actually started to fallen off, especially in terms of overall defense potency. It's just far less favored compared to when this particular map and the bomb site was first introduced. The fact that Frogs are going to be starting off on the top floor, it may be a tad bit concerning. And also, one more thing that is very, very interesting that we probably should already mention is Kensho. Already starting off very, very strong with the mind games. If you missed that, he initially picked the Ash, and then he 6-picked off of the Ash back onto the Ash. I don't think the Frogs are ready for it.
No one's ready for an Ash onto an Ash. Come on, let's be honest, Tudos. That operator, no one expects to be brung. Ash is so off meta. 6th in offer? Nah, definitely not. But
I mean, R4C, they got nerfed. It's lost 5 different rounds, and on top of that, she has lost a breaching round too. I'm pretty sure that Kensho has got something very, very diabolical planned to do with this particular FBI operator.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, Tudos, I like to also make a comment about what has been brung from the defenders, and to be honest, we're not seeing anything out of the blue. We can't even get excited about a Frost. I mean, technically you can, because we like to see a good Pogmat death, but,
True.
I mean, she's started to see a real resurgence, so in the grand scheme of things, she's not as exciting as what it used to be.
No, not necessarily. Interestingly enough, TXC was actually anticipating some kind of presence over towards that big window. As you probably saw, 2 Pogmats that were placed in that particular portion. That was just highlighted by Angelo as well. I don't think that CW are actually going to bat an eye towards that portion of the map. They're going to do things basically by the book. Claim control of Attic, as well as Walk-in Closet, and have those 2 portions of the map as your initial beachhead.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we're getting our first entry fragging. Kensho, the man that we mentioned earlier about potentially upping his game, has upped his game, and he's going to get that first initial frag, and it is onto a Frost. That's a decent pick when you think about how good that Stellan SMG can be, especially with a 1.5. A good impact trick coming out from the Maestro as well here, Tudos. So that's 1 Selma charge down. Decent work being done from the defenders in terms of utility, but I mean, man count, all in favour of the attackers.
For the time being, yeah, but time slowly starts to dwindle away. Now, there is one concern that has started to raise on the side of CW. You haven't got Closet open. Are you going to potentially rotate JMX over? I'm not exactly sure. Angelo's finally going to secure the trade onto Kensho as well, so we're now back at an even playing field. With 80 seconds left to work with CW, they're slowly starting to falter. They need to actually give this round a tad bit more gas in order to remain competitive.
Well, I mean, there's still lots to do. The Maestro camera confirming positions. I imagine there'll be TXC on that camera. We can't confirm by looking over, but call me Dicta taking out David Bob. They've now gained full control of that attic. They're going to push through and make sure that the map control that they've just been able to gain is secured. So now Hazza having to make sure that he holds down the kids' doms, Angelo and Lenina. They're holding down any entry from Trophy. Volcanoid below, potentially a sneak up towards White Tudos. This could potentially end up being an absolute powder keg, and Lenina's going to start that off with a great frag onto Dicta.
Okay, that does tie us up. 30 seconds left to go. Mission critical as James is working his way in through lower attic. Spots the gun barrel behind the foosball table, but that's not a position you can just so easily pounce on. There has to be some kind of build-up, and as you were talking about, that White Stairs presence, it's able to shut down Lenina as well, and that means the site is now open for business, but Angelo is going to try to lock it down as soon as possible. Bianc, though, is already initiating the defuse plans as Hazza tries to creep and crawl his way back into Denied. He spots the head of Bianc. It's a 1v1 right now as the clock has been reset. Back to 45 seconds. He goes for the swing, but unfortunately enough, it's a miss. Volcanoid, he delivers, he capitalizes, and he converts it into a round dub.
Volcanoid, she really popped off there. But the thing is, though, Tudos, is the 2 people that we identified as people that we want to pick up, Kensho and Volcanoid, they popped off. 2 kills for Volcanoid, 1 kill for Kensho, right? You're thinking to yourself, I mean, that's when things start to get better. Call Me Dicta gets 1, she continues her form. So, slowly Combat Wombats are doing things that we like to see. I mean, yeah, we've already seen them really do well on Chalet where they popped off. Are they actually confirming the Amaru this time?
Yeah, they have.
Oh, no.
That may raise a couple of eyebrows, but luckily enough for CW, the Frogs are going to be revisiting that top floor bomb site, so Amaru can have some kind of impact. If we were going to be visiting the basement bomb site, entirely different story. Amaru would basically just be another person with a gun in their arms and wouldn't be able to, use their gadget whatsoever, but this is going to be relatively interesting. If CW are actually able to properly set this up, or if they're just willing to bum rush the bomb site, you know for a fact that Kensho is going to grapple straight into kids and then just wreak havoc.
It's not only that, though. I mean, they have brought the Frost, so easily a Pogmat put in the right place could catch someone completely off guard. It looks as if Hazza's going to be playing more aggressive down towards Classroom. I mean, that is where the Ashe made their entry, but there is no Ashe this time. It's the Amaru. Something that's interesting though, I really want to refer back, you know, as us Siegecasters, we're very nostalgic when it comes to strategy, etc. I do believe it was the old Templar roster that used Amaru against G2 on this map, and she went straight in through kids and was able to get a plant down. Difference was though, G2 had a massive extension in towards Harmony area, Trudeau's, and that just doesn't seem to be the case. Oh, initial gunfight being taken here, but only a slight bit of damage being taken on Nahaza, who, where I thought he was going to be in Classroom, is actually upstairs holding vertical angles.
Kensho is willing to persist, though. He's not willing to let the Frogs just simply sit tight and wait for time to dwindle on down, but Ahaza wins the initial gunfight. I thought that Kensho would have had that, but now they're a man down, and not necessarily just a single man, but a very potent operator in the right hands. Kensho now down in the dirt means that Frogs have initially one less headache to worry about, but more are gonna soon to start actually piling on up as Byonk, I believe this time, is actually able to successfully breach Closet or not. The impact trick on the side of Haza, it was bang on the money, and guess what? Even if that particular impact trick doesn't work on out, Lenina is not even a couple of feet away with two of her own to then add into the party.
Yeah, Lenina definitely can pop out. That's great burn there to get rid of the Goyle shield. David Bob now can actually push up and get aggressive. Obviously, he'll be starting to take a tad bit of damage. 10 seconds he won't be able to push up. That'll definitely give enough time for people to push up, but it's David Bob that gets the kill. A quick refrag onto GMXC, and there goes the Maestro Karma. There goes all info in towards Attic. But it's the attackers that need to gain info here. They need to gain info where they can make their ingression, where they can get potentially a refrag. Volcanoid is looking to make that late flank again, but I can imagine Frogs will have eyes, will have information, will make adjustments to where she decides to push from.
She's actually gone for the rappel outside of Games Room. All they really need is to force Lenina into a very uncomfortable position. Speaking of being in a very awkward position, not exactly sure what Angelo is doing out there besides simply getting, well, taken out of commission down below. So that was a bit of a yikes. It may have just been a bit of a freebie for CW, but they're happily going to take that all to themselves. Lenina is able to ensure that that closet breach doesn't get blown open all too wide, but guess what? The players on the side of CW, they are spread relatively thin. There are 3 separate 1v1s that need to be won out, and for now, well, the kill feed, it may just be a sea of blue as the Frogs find the entry. Bianca's able to clap back with one onto Lenina, but the clock is starting to flash red for the time being. 10 seconds left, and Bianca needs to stick this. Volcanoid providing coverage has to ensure that TXC can't contest, but Haza might be able to, at least not yet. Diffuser has gone down, and STXC finds the first. Haza is there for the cleanup as well. A triple kill on the round, nevertheless, putting that MP5K to work, getting the counter defuse, and ensuring that the Frogs are able to tie things up 1 round apiece.
Yeah, you can't help but feel that potentially the fact that they lost out in that Amaru very early in the round is what hurt them. I mean, Amaru, she's a great operator to catch people off guard, but sometimes utility game and just taking it slow is what matters. I mean, we think towards what happened in the last round, or the first initial round where Combat Wombats won it. I mean, the Ash was able to get that first entry frag. Obviously, she gets traded out. That's okay for your entry fragger. I mean, they got the first initial entry. That's what you want. So
that's all you need to do.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking to myself, the Amaru potentially is what could have cost them that round. Maybe some extra frag grenades or explosive utility later in the round could have maybe won it. But again, at the same time, that's all if, buts, and maybes. We need to stay in the here and now as we head down to bottom floor.
Yeah, we don't deal with uncertainties. Just like a certain Sith Lord in Revenge of the Sith, we only deal with absolutes. Right here in Rainbow Six Siege, we just leave out the theoretical parts. We just stick to reality. For the time being, though, the first visit of the basement bomb site will finally be flashed and confirmed as well. I'm also loving the fact that CW, they're actually willing to employ the floor as this time around entered their strategy. I can only start to imagine that those Rotero drones are more than likely going to be utilized to clear out that, well, elbow portion of the map, just because of the fact that, you know, Rotero drones, they're too clunky for an ADS to just shoot out of mid-air, especially even if it jumps. So the fact that James has got 4 of them at his disposal means that Lenina might have to actually vacate that position just a tad bit too early.
This is the thing though, Tudor's, I mean, Elbow's positioning, I mean, it used to be an absolute stronghold. It was I would say not near enough impossible, but definitely required a lot of coordination to remove it. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore, especially with the ADS's nerfs that came, a few months ago, and especially with the buff of Flores towards the attack. This position definitely isn't as strong as what it once was. Lenina actually being able to stay away without taking any damage as well potentially could catch people off guard, especially if Hazard does a bait with the reinforcement. We'll need to see as the shotgun has been brought out. Hazard close to that reinforcement area, and all the utility burns starting to come in. TXC is using that long angle from Electric Box to actually maybe potentially get a kill. They're gaining information. They know where the smoke is. We could easily see a frag coming out soon. Angelo is holding the angle onto Pillar and getting taken out with a trade. Oh.
I'm not even exactly sure how Angelo managed to stick that frag. His crosshair, well, he actually wasn't even ADS. That might have just been a lucky shot. He has Ubisoft to thank for that one. And as you can see, NS being traded back and forth in chat. And you know what? Indeed, it was a nice shot. But Call Me Dicta, already taking up the reins, is able to find TXC. And just like that, Pillar Control is now firmly in the grasp of CW. Now, they can start collapsing onto the bomb site and play for refrags, because CW, well, they maintain the man advantage quite sternly as we have just surpassed the halfway mark of the round.
Yeah, great drone work there, been able to find out where the position of the Jaeger is. It's just up to Haza and Wamai, the two catchers left. Dicta dropping that last catcher, the German, the Jaeger. He's down and it's all up to Haza. And Haza getting dropped in the dirt. So, now two doors. Combat Wombats, they're just picking up with the left off. They're able to pick up that frag, but if we follow the trend of the first two rounds, then this next one should be Frogs.
Yeah, and we are going to be revisiting the basement bomb site, but naturally the Frogs, they have got to step up their game, because there may have been some kind of absence of situational awareness on their particular end. You saw the two players that were sat over, or two defenders, I should say, were sat over by Pillar, and they were both taken out. Now, credit where credit is due. Angelo, absolutely ridiculous shot. No idea exactly how he had any business getting that particular kill, but it could have potentially been the saving grace for the Frogs. What was a bit disappointing, though, was the fact that TXC was taken out of commission by Call Me Dicta. And TXC wasn't even actually aware of the fact that Call Me Dicta had actually descended those stage staircases, was completely caught off by surprise. And that led to the downfall of the entire bomb site. If the Frogs are willing to get this particular round win, and trust me, they need it quite desperately as well, they have to either A, put more emphasis on towards securing Pillar as a viable position, or mark it as free territory and ensure that they can play the long angle from Highway. There are two options, and it looks like they're going to commit to the latter by actually giving Highway a tad bit more attention.
Something else that I want to point out to those was Frogs did actually have a mute. And mute is considered to be one of Flores' counters, but the Flores drone was able to waltz all the way through blue, all the way up to the shield, and then destroy it, leaving the smoke again in that precarious situation where the utility burn comes through and the attackers could easily take him out. So on top of that, we need to also point out, where was the mute jammers being placed? Obviously we don't know the strategy, we just have to theorise, maybe potentially find out, but that leaves something that I want to be desired. Something that I was about to say the desire to get that entry frag, but it's Angelo that picks up, and Sledge going in without a drone, questionable.
Yeah, to say the least. Maybe there was some kind of, well, I'm not exactly even sure what to call it. Maybe CW had a sensation of the fact that there may have been somebody on the top floor, but blindly running into big window, it basically means that you're waving a flag that says you're a clay pigeon, and just like that, Angelo's gonna snack that one up relatively easily. But he's not gonna stop there. He's gonna get a second as well onto Call Me Dicta. This roam presence, whether CW know it even exists or not, is working wonders for the Frogs right now. And CW, they're scrambling for some kind of solution as they have 3 members left standing.
We'll definitely know about some sort of presence, and Angelo is just making his presence known. Bioink, GMXC and Vulcanoid all in a circle, a triangle of death. Haza picking one up for himself. Can Angelo chip in and help out? Look how close they are. They're playing in tandem, two doors. This is great. This is what you like to see from two roamers playing above. GMXC though, he potentially could catch one off guard. We do see one in towards security, but Haza's going to swing. He's not going to pick up the frag. GMXC actually winning that out, and now Vulcanoid getting one of her own. So now now with James and Katie being able to pick up this frag, that could snowball into a round. They do have utility they could use to actually gain control of further of the map. Freezer looks like to be the option that they're going to go into, and there is one player ready and waiting for them.
Last ditch push. That is usually what Freezer is utilized for. Lovely shots, but unfortunately enough, they don't connect. What does, though, is TXC's MP5 onto the head of Vulcanoid, and not just that, onto the head of the last player on the side of CW as well. Indeed, Kyra, we are starting to see history repeat itself, with CW managing to pick up the first attacking win, regardless as to which bomb site the Frogs actually choose to visit, and then Frogs, they're able to make do on their revisit of said bomb site as well. But unfortunately enough, I don't think that dynamic can actually keep up for much longer, because we only have 2 rounds left in this first half, and naturally, with the actual sort of win rates, as you discussed and as you mentioned a tad bit earlier before we hopped into the game, being 53% for the defenders and 47% in favor of the attack, it is very, very likely that we will see an even 3-3 split. But naturally, the Frogs don't want that. They have been on the back foot since the start of this matchup, but it's still a possibility.
I mean, any possibility is a possibility in this matchup, it seems. I mean, everybody's popping off, they're all chipping in, and that's something that you like to see. One thing I wanted to point out, you kind of said that it's not really viable that you're winning on the revisit, which I totally agree with. We do have to give compliments to Frogs that they're able to adapt to the strategy of Combat Wombats, but when you're at the top of the league, you shouldn't be getting dictated to. You should be the one dictating, and it's Combat Wombats that are setting the pace for this matchup so far in terms of their winning. They win one more round. If we think about the old meta and what we're used to, which we have the most kind of information, then it is a win for the attack. With the current meta, with the attackers seeing so much, worth out of their attacks, I don't know. Maybe 3-3 is just what we should be expecting on Oregon nowadays.
It definitely could be. Obviously, if we were to start sort of scrambling for the information from all the way at T1 drizzling down to Amateur Siege, then I'm pretty sure we could make a very, very strong case for that 3-3 split. James, all the way from downtown. A single little pixel is all he needed, and it converts into a frag. Lovely stuff.
Yeah, Angelo just maybe getting a bit too aggressive there. Maybe it was a spawn pick, I'm not too sure, but
I think it was.
Yeah,
probably was.
Yeah, well, TXC, what can you say? That's your Maverick gone. So
where was that?
I don't know. But, wait.
Science is searching. He doesn't even know. We're completely befuddled by how TXC was able to pick up this frag, but regardless, the Frogs aren't going to be complaining, and neither should we. Lenina, though, is going to be forced off of that closet position ever so slightly, but the asphyxiating bolts, they actually don't connect, so the Maestro is allowed to persist just for a tad bit longer. And Call Me Dicta is able to actually secure the man advantage, and it now sides with CW as David Bob has been taken out of commission. But no, Lenina claps back with one of their own onto Bionk, and now TXC locks horns with Kensho and domes him appropriately. Call Me Dicta taking the reins, now barging themselves onto the bomb site, about to actually, well, sort of realize that Lenina is not even a couple of meters away from her, spots out Hazza but can't confirm the kill. That is a freebie that Hazza should not have walked away unscathed from, as Lenina is able to shut down Call Me Dicta at the top of bunks. It's all down to Vulcanoid. Diffuser not in possession of CW for the time being, but I think that this round may have just been secured by the Frogs.
Well, the good thing is Vulcanoid does have that LMG that she can just hold left trigger and pre-fire everything. But, those smokes getting flung out, but I think that's a bit of a waste. 50 seconds, those smokes could easily disperse, and then you've only got one left to hold down for 40 seconds. But with 3 guns trained in every position, every possibility, I don't see this being a win for Vulcanoid. I see this being an impromptu timeout, and the Frogs taking this round, and then us heading to our first tertiary site of the map. but only to see what Vulcanoid can do. And there we go, there's the last remaining smoke left for Frogs, and all the bullets coming out. She now knows where one position is. That is the smoke, but will she be able to get up the frag? No. Oh, trade. Oh, actually she does get the frag, but it's a trade anyway. 2 doors.
I don't know what has it been with tonight's matchup between Frogs and CW. It is basically trade city, left, right, and center. It is very befuddling. It is strange to witness.
Right, well, let's do a bit of, let's do a job, 2 doors. We'll analyse, we'll do what we're meant to do, we'll talk about the strategy of the game instead of just shouting about pixels. Right, so right, we saw the initial spawn peak from Angelo, and you're thinking to yourself, right, they lose that out, that's a bit worrying. Angelo getting taken out, I mean, that he's been popping off past couple of rounds, so you're thinking to yourself, right, this is advantage combat wombats. But then the huge refrag from TXC comes out, right, and takes out our man GMXC. That's your Maverick. And if you think about the strategy of combat wombats, how they attack top floor, they always send their Maverick to do a split push from attic and from master bedroom to try and put pressure on towards site. And I mean, when that happens, when you can't actually put the pressure on towards attic, I mean, you're essentially shutting down a full entryway and trophy. How can you get in without clearing attic? And I mean, you're also losing out frag grenades. That's your Maverick gone. They didn't even have a sledge. So yeah, I don't think the frag of that TXC got can't be understated.
To be entirely honest with you, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how TXC got the frag onto onto Bjork, was it? No,
GMXC.
Onto James. Exactly. It remains one of those questions that not even science can answer. It is so strange. It is very mind-boggling exactly where James was sat, but regardless though.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm not... is science, our actual observer, not even going to acknowledge that? Did you see what I tried to do there?
Right, anyway, well, we hit... Oh, he's not accepting it. He's not even acknowledging it. But it looks like the sledge is going to acknowledge the presence. Oh, in towards dining area. Maybe potentially seen the player there, but maybe just missed. We saw the outline. We know there's a player there, but does the sledge know? He's searching, and it looks as if the thermite trick from GMXC is coming out. Lenina taking a bit of damage, and there is a Valkyrie cam somewhere. Look towards TXC. He's on one black eye, maybe in towards small tower. We'll need to see. Oh, it's outside. That could be interesting later in the round when there's that kind of flank watch. They do know there's one player in towards bus. Looks like a double run out coming out from the Jaeger and the Valkyrie. Valkyrie getting taken out and a great kill, but has it been dropped in turn? And look at this, they've gained full control of sight. Kensho getting a double kill, and now with that full control, that could potentially mean the plant going down, and may mean that Frogs completely been taken by surprise.
They were preoccupied with trying to cause chaos on the battle bus, but Kensho, he is just here to utterly demolish. Plant goes down, and Angelo is able to secure at least one trade in favor of the Frogs, but it's starting to crumble right in front of the Frogs. They held on to so much, but it slipped through their fingers. Call Me Dicta collects the final frag of the rounds, but so much of it happened off POV that we can't even actually figure out and try to build a comprehensive, well, sort of picture as to how Kensho found himself on the bomb site. Want to know where I walked in, or you'll watch the VOD? You know what, Kensho, you might not be able to hear us, but I want you to tell us in all chat right now.
Science, get him to tell us. Science, get him to tell us.
Freezer, maybe?
Casters say yes. Freezer? What? So what? He walked in from blue all the way up Freezer into security, then inside?
Into security, probably. Into security, killed the player, which I believe that was I think it must have been Lenina who was playing on the Maestro inside of showers. That's already a very pivotal position that you would usually have to dump a lot of utility towards to clear out. But you know what? If you've got traditional weapons to push your own agenda, that is completely fine. And Kensho was able to accomplish that, and then it kind of just snowballed from that point onwards. There was little to nothing that the Frogs could have done. Yeah,
big time. Well, 2 doors. I don't know if you saw that kind of flash there from the scoreboard. Maybe our lovely observer can show us again, but what we saw there was the information of the players and who's popping off, and the biggest name on Combat Wombats is GMXC. He was the hard breacher. That's your kind of hard support. He shouldn't. I'm not saying he shouldn't be. I mean, it's always nice when your hard support's popping off and has a good match rating.
Yep.
But you should really be expecting your impact players, your Call Me Dictators, your Kenshos to be the ones that are at the top of that rating.
Yes and no. The main reason why I'm saying yes is because naturally there are certain players that need to fulfill certain roles on the side of CW, but there's nothing against having the likes of James or Call Me Addicted, who by the way are tied for 6 kills, tied for top fragger on the side of CW, all chipping in and chiming in with their own frags. Just simply being at the right place at the right time means more than anything in Siege, and CW have been able to take really good advantage of that thus far. Kensho?
Yeah. Sorry, well, Kensho getting that first frag there. There goes your hard breach, so that's a great frag there. Remember we saw the impact of getting that kill that TXC got onto GMXC, that Maverick that was, I mean, essential, the catalyst for moving in towards Attic. But Call Me Dicta, I mean, we saw the roam on Chalet. Will she be able to pop off like that? She always plays in these off positions places that people don't usually check, and when that happens, people can get really taken off guard. We'll need to see if Lenina is on those cams, can watch those flanks, and the Util burn coming out. It looks as if they're going to get rid of the shield in towards Attic. That's great work from them. And oh no, does that mean there's going to be a C4 from GMXC and from Attic?
Well, I'm pretty sure that the frogs, they're now privy towards Call Me Dicta's presence, but they can't stop it for the time being. Call Me Dicta already finds one, but TXC is able to even things out. Disposes of Kensho, and that means we're back in a 3v3 scenario. It's been rather chaotic, but just for a couple of seconds, silence begins to fall on Oregon. Call Me Dicta, not aware of the fact that there is a player in closet, but is of TXC. Loses the duel, though, however, and that means that the man advantage it now swings back in the favor of the frogs.
Yeah, definitely. And look at this, it's just back and forth constant. Volcanoid down below. Well, in that case, it's 2 versus 2 on site. TXC taking a ton of damage there, but they do know where Bioink is. C4 raining out from above, not actually getting that down onto TXC or even the kill. So with that being said, Hazza in towards Closet needs to get the plant down, and we have 40 seconds left, 2 doors. I mean, that's a long 40 seconds to be waiting, trying to get the information, trying to see if they can get the players. There's mute jammers, and there's also Mozzie pests. That means that information is denied. So what is Hazza and TXC going to do? Are they actually going to be able to push in? Are they just going to have to face check? Yes, they are. Volcanoid getting the frag, getting a double kill, a triple on the round. And I mean, frogs.
Once again, just simply being at the right place at the right time. Volcanoid was able to bring that stalemate to a rather abrupt and premature end. As the frogs were actually, well, in the sort of motion of putting their sort of post plant, setting up their post plant and actually trying to secure the defuse as well, it just got stopped. It just simply got, well, ripped away from their clutches by none other than Volcanoid. Remember, before we even hopped into game, we were talking about Volcanoid being a part of the conversation, but in a very negative light. Now they are currently top of the board. Not necessarily just on the side of CW, but I think in the entire server as well. These are the kind of discussions that I love to see, and the kind of discussions that I love to have. People finally living up to their full potential in Bull. It is such a sight.
Yeah, see, for once, the caster curse hasn't actually rained out. I love to see that. See, when I'm asking people to perform
the caster
better...
bless.
Yes, do you know what it is? It's the caster bless. For once, as casters, we don't get... I mean, not proven wrong, but we finally get an answer to the questions in a good light. Well, 2 doors, heading down the bottom floor. We've already seen how Combat Wombat attacked us, right? So now, how are frogs going to employ almost the same sort of tactics? We don't see any Flores, though. But they are bringing a Capit out. I mean, which is almost, I'm not going to say questionable, right? Because in this meta, you can almost bring what you want. But, I mean, you don't really see Capit out being brought that often.
No, you simply don't. And the fact that Capitao actually makes a presence in this particular round against the Wamai is relatively questionable. Naturally, I'm pretty sure that Frogs are aware of the fact that Wamai is on the playing field and that those pancakes need to be burned out quite quickly before you're actually able to toss out your asphyxiating bolts and then clear out elbow. If that is a mistake that the Frogs unfortunately make as the round progresses, then I might be able to write this off and call it an automatic CW win, because that is a mistake that should not hypothetically happen. Just the thought of it already makes me sick to my tummy. I wanted to say stick to my stummy, but I can't English well tonight, so.
It's fine, Tudors. It's fine. I mean, we can't always English. Sometimes I just speak Scottish and hope that people understand me. Well, it looks as if we're going to see Combat Wombats defend in towards elbow with GMXC. Frogs, they're going to try and use this Capitao, but remember, we already seen there's 3 Wamai pancakes on this door, so those bolts are easily going to get burned. Will we see potentially? I mean, I was about to ask if they're going to push down tower stairs, but there's the confirmation. We do see the Ayana on there. Kensho, though, on the roam in towards kitchen is looking to deny that. But do they have the information? Will they find out? This is the question, or the answers that we'll need to find out. Lenina in support Angelo. It looks as if they're waiting for Kensho to make the first move. And with Kensho just sitting patiently. I mean, Tudors, let's be honest here. He doesn't need to do anything. He just needs to sit and just... I mean,
no, he literally just needs to exist. He literally just needs to be an unscratchable itch at the back of the Frogs' heads, and now, well, nothing but utter chaos is starting to ensue as David Bob forgot the basics of CQC combat. He did not check his corners, and he paid a very costly price for doing so. Luckily enough, though, for the Frogs, they were able to secure that trade almost instantaneously. So one would argue no harm, no foul, but it is not a prime position for either one of these two squads. But I guess this starts to favor CW just a tad bit more. Sure, they may have just lost the roaming presence, the unknown factor that was Kensho inside of the kitchen, but now he can reinforce the bomb site as time, once again, starts to dwindle away quite rapidly. There are still so many hurdles that the Frogs need to jump over.
Yeah, there's a lot of hurdles to come out here, and there's another hurdle getting taken away. That is the meeting hatch getting taken away. So that's a lot of pressure in towards E-Box that can be created from this one position. There's some information coming from those dingers on towards, I believe that's tower stairs, and look, Hazard's dropped in. Potentially questionable. I mean, there could have been one player ready to swing on it with the diffuser in hand. He can easily get taken off guard. Vulcanoid on the highway door could easily be used as well to swing TXC so close. Will Vulcanoid swing? Yes, she will, but she's not going to be able to get anything. Lenina with a great kill with a frag grenade, and Angela getting one. They need to get the plant down soon. GMXC's doing great work with those smoke babes.
Indeed he is. In comes Angelo for the swing, shuts down James, and now it's all down to Byung, the man on the mission. Finds 2, but unfortunately enough can't see it through at the 11th hour, and just in the nick of time. If we were to have waited 2 more seconds, it would have been completely done and dusted, because the Frogs didn't even start initiating that diffuse plant. If they weren't able to secure that last frag when they did, it could have been a 5-3 scoreline. It came down to the wire whether or not Frogs even realized that we were just 2 seconds away from closing the page on round number 8. It came very, very close. I personally thought that the moment that the Frogs had sort of lost that initial duel inside a blue bunker, that this entire round would have been screaming Combat Wombats, but apparently I was very, very wrong. The fact that Vulcanoid wasn't able to deliver on those 2 frags, potentially 2 frags, it is really, really heartbreaking. And Frogs, they were right there to jump to the occasion, shut that down before it got out of hand, and then it spiraled.
I think that was the defining moment for the round, all in all. I mean,
arguably, yes.
Yeah, if Vulcanoid gets even one of those kills, it looks so much worse. And then they have to push down highway. Even if someone sets up a crossfire with her and just sits on those bottom kind of highway doors, potentially there was. I didn't quite catch it. I mean, that could easily be a cheeky double kill as Vulcanoid swings.
It could have been. It really, really could have been. But unfortunately enough for us and for all of you lovely peeps inside of Twitch chat, you'll have to feast your hypothetical eyes on what could have been a hypothetical victory for CW in a hypothetical alternate universe as well. But back
The
to reality
multiverse.
for the time being. Yeah, exactly. The Bull multiverse. That is the subject of. That's the subject of our next sort of podcast titled "How I Wound Up in Peak's Basement Working as a Commentator." But naturally, you guys will have to, sub to our Patreon for that.
Yeah.
We'll
Definitely.
we'll make one on the spot just for you guys. But back to the match at hand.
Yeah.
It has been really, really close-knit between these two squads. I thought that the Frogs would have gotten themselves an easy victory, but CW have been able to keep them in check thus far. 4 rounds apiece thus far, and it's starting off with a bang! TXT finds the opening onto Kensho. Now, man advantage sits firmly with Frogs.
What a shot on the Kensho, shutting down that roam. Remember, the Jaeger was always a constant pest. I mean, always in the back of the mind of those players of Frogs. They knew where he was, they just didn't shut him down till much later in the round. And I mean, that's huge, getting that kill. That shuts down the pressure of anybody coming up for a late flank. But I mean, easily someone could sneak up on him. We'll need to see what the case is as Lenina does his work on towards the hatch and security. So with that being the case then, Tudos, obviously, you're thinking to yourself, this could easily be a Frogs round. I mean, they don't have any pressure on them to kind of stop the utility work, if that makes sense. They don't have anybody in the back of their minds. I imagine they'll have flank drones down just in case we see someone go for a bit of a heroic play. But what it looks like what Frogs are doing is they're setting up for this kind of laundry / freezer push.
It's not something that we see all too often, but it may just work wonders for them this time as Angelo is able to once again steamroll his way through Bianc. That puts us in a 5v3 scenario. Angle now secured over towards that washing machine, and utility is being dumped left, right, and center. And James, he is dancing with the devil. That is not something you should be peeking with an SMG-11, but in good faith, if you can use that pocket SMG, then you should deliver, but he doesn't. Angelo is able to take him out of commission as Call Me Dicta goes for a very, very wild swing, rewarded with 1 frag, but now it's all down to Vulcanoid, and she's able to find one onto Lenina as the diffuser is about to go down. Clock now reset back to 45 seconds. It's going to take a Herculean effort for the Vulcanoid to clutch up.
Yeah, definitely. It's 40 seconds ticking down very slowly. Vulcanoid trying to make the decision where she's going to make her ingress into sight. I mean, it looks like we're going to go down tower stairs, and this is not a bad way. I mean, there is certain pixels, but it looks as if all Frogs are aimed towards Freezer, and when that being the case, could easily catch 1 or even 2 players off guard. There's the first, but remember, Angelo in towards Freezer. Oh no, don't look the wrong way. Angelo taking out Vulcanoid. As soon as I seen Vulcanoid looking down the corridor and in towards the bomb site, it just... my heart was in my mouth.
I mean, we have the benefit of silhouettes. We know roughly what's going to happen, and I'm gonna have to go ahead and give Vulcanoid the benefit of the doubt. You're in a 1v3 situation. Your heart is probably thumping out of your chest. You're basically just reacting subconsciously to what is going on your screen. You throw caution to the wind and you try to make the best out of a bad situation, but let's not forget about checking your corners, ladies and gents. It's the second time we've seen that particular mistake actually transpire in this particular matchup, and it could have been something very, very special for Vulcanoid to have secured CW their 5th round and continue to maintain their lead over the Frogs. But now the shoe's on the other foot. The Frogs, they've been able to, the first time thus far in Oregon, establish a lead over CW. And all they need is 1 more round to sit comfortably on match point.
Yeah, definitely, mate. That's it. But the thing is, though, they have not won top floor site yet. Well, I mean, at least on the attack. That's what I meant. So, that, I mean, advantage combat wombats, I would say, to even up the score count. And with that being the case, we could be heading to potentially a 1-round shootout on a tertiary site. I love the tertiary site one-shot shootouts, or 1-round shootouts, sorry, because I mean, anything can happen. We really could see absolute chaos or domination depending on what happens, but I mean, we're not close to that yet. We'll talk about the here and the present as always. Tudos, as Vulcanoid is bringing an alibi, an operator that has been maybe making a small resurgence considering, I mean, the recent patches and changes to operators, and the fact that she does bring a shield and operators have lost shields. I mean, she's good enough to kind of catch players off guards. I like to make comparisons between Alibi and Frost with the fact that in the higher end of Siege, players actually do get caught off and give away the position just by flicking onto these alibi prismas.
Yeah, it's instinctive. You react to it, and some people would argue that getting a couple of pings in real time as tangible information is just so much more valuable than actually getting a down from a frost map. Both operators, if you think about it long and hard enough, they actually do to a certain extent fulfill a very, very similar role, but that's something that we can leave to the likes of Reapers to discuss and make a YouTube video on. We're here to bring you guys the action loud and clear, and action, it is certainly coming. TXC lights things up and shuts down Byung. That is the Melusi taken out of play, as well as the C4 now flushed down the drain. There still sits one in the back pocket of James, and it has to count if CW want to remain competitive in this round. We're just about to surpass the halfway mark of round number 10, and the Frogs, well, they've already established quite the nasty foothold for themselves. Closet is starting to be breached on up in CW. Well, they're starting to feel the heat really quickly as Angelo shuts down Call Me Dicta. Hazza now on the prowl down below as James is trying to hold down the fort from inside of Attic. He doesn't have his 6 to worry about, but he's got so many different targets that he needs to click on. Vulcanoid is able to claw it back ever so slightly in the favor of CW as Hazza goes down, but that's not the whole story just yet. TXC, he is going to town. Kensho now down in the dirt, and James is able to get one trade, but that's all they'll be able to accomplish as Lenina is going to ensure that his mission is brought to a premature end. Now it's all down to Vulcanoid inside of Classroom. Has possession of Diffuser now that David Bob is down in the dirt, but 2 more players to power through as the Diffuser has been recovered. This is going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, definitely, and that 45-second timer is going to get started soon, but it's not even going to get started. TXC closing out that round. And Vulcanoid, I mean, almost with a great denial. If she had stayed downstairs, if she was able to actually just watch the diffuser. Unfortunately, we don't get points when we're in the Pro League HUD settings, but if she had that kind of, how would you put that, information that the diffuser was down on the ground to those, that could have been the round for Frogs. But
it could have. Well, or for CW, you mean? It could have been the round for CW.
Oh, sorry, it could have been the round for CW. I meant more as it could have been the round done for them. Like, they could have lost the round just on that one vault in and not looking down below.
Very true.
Oh, no, James, don't! Oh, the Clash is not getting
heartbroken.
Heartbroken. Big Sag.
Indeed. Big Sag in Twitch chat, please.
F's in chat, please. But anyway, to those tertiary site.
Yes.
Kitchen dining. Clash is really good here.
Clash is amazing here.
So, I mean, I can understand why they're kind of flashing it. But the thing is, though, the question that, well, not question, but the thing I'm going to say is that the fact that they've flashed the Clash could potentially give away what their idea is, or what site they're going to.
I mean, it could have. Naturally, when it comes to both meeting and kitchen, the 2 tertiary bomb sites that are available, they have very, very different dynamics, but you can naturally extend into both adjoining rooms. If you're, for example, defending meeting and kitchen, you can have some kind of presence over towards small tower, kitchen, shower, whatever you may imagine. It's all entirely up to you. But at this certain point, I wouldn't really think that it's all that much of an issue, just because of the fact that Clash is surprisingly viable regardless as to which bomb site you visit on Oregon. She is, all in all, a great operator to have on your lineup on Oregon.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Well, it looks as if Frogs, they have the information as what site to go through, but it looks as if they're actually going for a meet and push, something that we don't see so often. Usually we just see the small tower take and teams try to, I mean, focus their eyes towards that area. But Call Me Dicta putting her focus. No way.
Oh, Call Me Dicta's gonna be kicking herself after that one. It should have been a freebie. Angela was entirely oblivious to the armory staircase position, but that's gut-wrenching. That one's gotta hurt. David Bob already taking the reins over by the kitchen hallway. Vulcanoid is going to be the main deterrent to keep them outside of the bomb site. Spots a couple of feetsies over towards meeting through that drone hole, but unfortunately enough, you can't snag them. This isn't the internet. This is a video game at the end of the day. I don't know where this analogy is going, but what is going really, really well is Frogs' setup thus far. They've gotten that meeting wall open. They have direct entry into the kitchen bomb site, and they have some hard cover to plant behind in case if they're willing to give themselves the green light. David Bob, he takes up the reins, realizes he doesn't have diffuser, trades positions with Haza, and now it commences.
Yeah, the fire squad has begun gunning, and it's now up to Vulcanoid, and it looks as if it's just a step beyond. The madness ensued, but I mean, that's the round, that's the game. The GGs cascade through the chat, 2-0, and we finally get our first win of the day. It is Frogs continuing their undefeated run in BO Season 3. So,
indeed,
gotta give commendations, but again, you can't help but feel Combat Wombats were just, I mean, the bridesmaid, just not the bride.
I really, really hope that this doesn't actually sort of turn out to be a repeating narrative on the side of Combat Wombats, because they are a squad that shows a lot of potential. They are a squad that when they want to be, they can be just a brute force to be reckoned with. We have seen nothing but sparks of brilliance and hope from them in the past couple of weeks. In the 3 weeks that we have seen them play thus far, there have been a lot of moments in which I thought to myself, like, wow, I do not want to go up in a face-it queue against this lot, because I will just get... I will be the tool which they use to wipe the floor with. But CW, at a certain point in any matchup, regardless of which map they're actually on or which team they play up against, they just seem to sort of ease off of the gas pedal at a very, very inappropriate moment in the matchup. For example, just right here on Oregon, the Frogs, they were able to take 4 rounds in a row entirely uncontested. And sure, you can make the argument that it must have been 3 rounds because Kensha was rocking blacklisted skin, and that was on a tertiary bomb site as well. Like, everything just stacked up against CW. But there have been so many great moments on the side of CW, and then it just falters. It just falls flat on his face, and then 3 weeks in CW, they only sit with a single point. It's rough.
Yeah, it's really rough. I mean, do you know what they remind me of? I don't know if you're a big fan of UFC, but I believe the fighter was Rory. I think his name was Rory McDonald. I'm not too sure. He was a Canadian fighter, and basically every single time it would go to absolute war. It would go maximum rounds. I mean, there would be blood spilled all across the ring. It was genuinely crazy. I think he was kind of more run about the time of Conor McGregor when he made his first entry into the scene, right? So this guy was crazy. But he never won a game, won a fight. He was always in the championship bouts, but could never win the championship belt. And then he ended up having to move to Bellator. I hope we don't see Combat Wombat having to move to Bellator.
I mean, look, honestly, if you wanted to try to pull out that kind of tangent to apply to Rainbow Six Siege, you should have just gone with Wilkie and Ents from way back in the day, having participated in so many different Rainbow Six Pro Leagues and not being able to have won one. I think Ents, they finally actually did win out Pro League. I think it must have been Season 7 of it. We're talking like Year 3 of this game's life cycle, but that is your random piece of trivial lore. Don't worry, that responsibility will lie on Whippet tomorrow when he does come back to the desk. Speaking of coming back to the desk, we will... well, just kind of have to leave it for a couple of minutes because we do have to go and get prepared for our next matchup. And by the way, unfortunately, we only do have 2 matches to broadcast this evening. Unfortunately, IOM, they did have to take a forfeit, meaning that we are going to be rounding things off just a tad bit earlier than usual. But do stay tuned, because next up after this short break is the Ludens versus Team Triton. That is a matchup that you certainly don't want to miss. See you in a few. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Monday Night Bull. In case of you guys are just tuning in, which by the way, first of all, shame on you. You should have been there for the first matchup. It was a great one. Man I Love Frogs went up against CW, and the Frogs, they were able to pull themselves together. Not necessarily at the 11th hour, but just at the right appropriate moment for them to scramble together, what was it, 4 rounds in a row to finally claim the dub, thus propelling themselves just over the Ludens. And now, it's time for the Ludens to see if they can outdo the Frogs and reclaim pole position. As things stand right now, only 2 rounds separate these two squads, the Frogs and Ludens, in terms of overall round differential. That means that, well, quite literally the Frogs, or excuse me, the Ludens, they can basically bang up any kind of score line that they wish, and they would immediately get that first place position back to themselves. So it's going to be an exciting one to say the least. This is the kind of matchup that if you've been watching back in Season 1, Team Trident versus the Lockdown Ludens, you'd be very, very excited for, but these are naturally 2 entirely different squads compared to a couple months back, many, many moons ago, but it's still going to be an invigorating matchup regardless. It appears once again that Cairo has pulled off an NA mic.
No. I was doing my best mime impression. I don't know what you're talking about. I am just doing my miming of a cast. That's how you do it. No, but anyway, what I was saying was this is kind of your blockbuster tie for Buell. Triton and Ludens have been with us for a long time. This is kind of your... I mean, it's not quite to the same standard, but your G2 and Fnatic, that kind of, this is the rivalry, you get a lot of viewership. Well, hopefully we're getting a lot of viewership. I mean, come on, it's me and you casting 2 of those.
Yeah, but, of course. I mean, just to pull out a random tangent, in case if you guys have been following any kind of CSGO, then this kind of matchup, it's like G2 versus Na'Vi that recently took place in IEM Katowice, with Na'Vi having been able to went out the grand final 3-0,
Yeah.
not even 2 days ago, but also 500 days ago back in 2020 when we last had that LAN event. So it's going to be a really, really stellar matchup, but unfortunately enough on the side of Team Triton, they are not necessarily in the best position. They only have a single point to their name, which is the main reason why I'm feeling a little bit skeptical about this match supposedly being a close affair.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, this is the thing, though, right? I'm going to pull up a couple of stats for you from last season, right? So we saw Ludens win out and the first time they played Triton. I think it was like 7-3, quite convincing. Then we saw Triton actually win out on Villa 7-3, which is where we're going to be heading to. Spoiler alert, by the way. And then, so now when we're coming here, I've actually been promised that Tritons are going to show up today. We actually look towards their team. They've not gave us a full roster in this season so far due to, I mean, external commitments and stuff like that from the team. And I believe it was Replay and a VC told me, trust me, we are going to turn up this time. We're actually going to win. And with that, I'm quite excited.
As am I. It's going to be really, really great to see, well, Team Triton finally be at full force for the first time in Bull Season 3 as well. So hopefully they're going to be able to give us quite the entertaining show to conclude Monday Night Bull. Now, I don't necessarily want to jump into predictions, but I think we can already start to sort of paint a picture for ourselves, because you already did mention we're going to be visiting Villa. The Ludens, they played Villa in Playday number 1 against CW and were able to take that particular matchup all to themselves 7-4. Now, if I'm not mistaken, well, Team Triton, they have yet to actually visit Villa whatsoever, so technically speaking, this is uncharted territory for them in Bull Season 3. I think the Ludens are heavily favored.
You could say that, but then you also look towards the other side where, I mean, you've got VOD review on Ludens, you now know what they do. I mean, I can guarantee you already know what they do because it's Villa, it's kind of a well-structured map, you know what you need to do to actually win out a game. So, I mean, I don't think there'll be much VOD review, but there is some information, some hints and tips, and maybe some clues, potentially even counter strategies coming out from Triton that they can kind of pull on. But for Ludens, I mean, what can you really pull on? Triton have no information to give away. They could pull out the craziest strats and Ludens wouldn't be prepared for it.
Actually, I don't think I casted the first Playday because I'm just scrambling through my notes to see what kind of tangible information I can actually grab on the Ludens for the time being to throw into the conversation right now, but there's not a whole lot. I do remember very vividly Playday number 2, so that was the Tuesday of the first week of Bull Season 3. We, myself and Whippet were casting at the time, and we did catch quite a lot of Villa, and I was left thoroughly disappointed by the overall stubbornness of the teams that were playing back then. Just constantly revisiting Aviator in games and just losing left, right, and center because it is a bomb site that has fallen heavily out of favor. So unfortunately enough, like I said, I can't bring any real statistics as to the Ludens' performance on Villa. That is something that I'm going to have to prepare for at a later date, but naturally, the Ludens, being arguably the more experienced team moving into this matchup because of the fact that they have visited Villa at least once, it means yes, they are more prepared, but at the exact same time, as you said, Team Triton, they have tangible information to counterstrap with.
I mean, here's some more tangible information for you, Tudos. We actually do have information on Villa so far in this season, and can you guess how in favour it is for the attackers?
62%.
Yep, well, it's 61%.
Oh, so close. Darn it.
So, so therefore, Triton starting on the attack may actually have another advantage with that. Another thing I just wanted to point out, just before we start talking about bans, right?
Yes.
See, when we think towards the impact of this game that it has on standings, etc., that's cool, but we'll also need to look towards next week. Next week, Triton play Poggy Woggy and Ludens play IOM. You have to, like, I mean, with that is another huge amount of games. You think about it, whoever wins here could potentially, whoever loses here could be losing next week. That could be, for Triton, 4 weeks in a trot without a win.
I don't even want to begin imagining that kind of scenario. It would just be very, very rough for Team Triton to actually kind of recover from that position if they do eventually land up in it. I mean, remember how close Season 2 of Bull was? It was not a two-horse race whatsoever. It was one of the closest affairs that we had ever seen with, if I'm not mistaken, at the very least 6 different teams, all in contention for a spot in the top 4. I really don't want to see Team Trident fall from grace like that. They have to remain competitive, and now because of the fact that they are back at full force, they can put up a good show.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we look towards the bans. The only interesting ones is from Triton, to be honest, where we see a Nomad and a Valkyrie getting banned. But at the end of the day, it's not something to write home about. Nomad, the Queen of the Flank, and I mean, Valkyrie, Queen of Information. I can see why they're being banned. I mean, you're trying to let the roamers do their thing, as well as that not give away information on your attack. Pretty standard. Mirror windows you don't want to deal with. Jackal, I mean, Jackal's annoying. It feels like a bit of a comfort ban. Feels as if you could have really banned someone else. But I mean, Thatcher is on the board.
Yeah, that is one thing that I actually did want to bring up. For the first time, well, for the first time this evening, Thatcher has slipped through the ban phase. He will not be sitting on the bleachers this time around, meaning that 62% or 61% that we were talking about, in the sense that Villa is an attacker-sided map, may just spike a little bit after tonight's matchup, especially in the event that Trexton was able to utilize those EMPs accordingly. It is something that Ludens, they've got to be prepared to deal with, one way or another.
Yeah, that's it. But with that being the case, though, it looks as if there's going to be somewhat of an aggressive positioning in towards the Masters side. I believe it's going to be Benji and is it Proctor K that's going to be doing the roaming. Those two players have been one of the highest sort of rating players. I'm basing most of my statistics off ratings, by the way, just in case, because that incorporates all the statistics that we know. And Proctor K with a beautiful shot, continuing to prove why he is at the highs of the match ratings.
Oh my goodness, Sardine didn't even have to actually step inside of the Wolves' Den, but he paid a very costly price for even actually peering towards that location. Proctor just absolutely doming him to kick things off before finally getting domed himself as Octagon secures the trade and narrowly manages to deal with Benji as well. And now, well, unfortunately enough, the heat is starting to mount up. Benji's already vacated the kitchen, and just like that, Northern presence has technically been alleviated, so Team Trident, they have a couple of openings to start moving on in.
Yeah, Sardine getting picked off is a huge pick. He is also one of Triton's best players so far. Almost carried them to an overtime win, but I mean, they just fell short towards the end. So with that being the case, the north side presence has been confirmed, the map control gained, and now we see Matum's Trexno starting to move up. Octagon is in tow. Remember, he is the IGL for Triton, so he'll be taking his time, making sure he's at the back of the squad so he can still be giving out those calls. Replay below, maybe trying to put pressure on towards 90, maybe trying to gain, I mean, maybe a frag, potentially just maybe utility, but remember, replay is below that Zofia. No map control gained on towards red landing so far. Maybe a drone just watching it. Maybe someone could creep up towards those red stairs. Look towards all the players are. But Benji getting down is a great frag. Octagon, the man who, he's only played in one matchup. He's starting to show up on this one though.
Definitely so. Now 90 control sits with Team Trident, and Matums can put those Selma charges to good use and essentially render Vault as an entirely unplayable position for the Ludens, meaning that they're going to feel really, really uncomfortable when things start to mount on up. Just like that, it has indeed been opened up in Team Trident. They've actually shifted their attention over towards that vault door. That is the default plan spot. But Matum, surprisingly enough, he's got the diffuser and he's on the opposite side of the map. Potentially an ingress in towards study is what we've got our hands on. Giobu, dancing with the devil, narrowly manages to scamper away. He's on death's door, but has not been opened for him just yet. And the Ludens are going to hold onto the top of main with an iron fist, but we've hit mission critical, Cairo. There's only 15 seconds left. It's going to be a bloodbath, whichever way you look at it. Giobu finds one, and just like that, it is an utter collapse. Nothing but a sea of orange paints the kill feed. And just like that, we have our first attacking round being banked by Team Trident.
Expected to say the least, but I mean, it was looking worrying at the very start. Triton, well, the reason why I say expected is EVG isn't what it used to be, Tudos. It's just not as strong.
This is something that the both of us have touted over multiple broadcasts. AVG is, in my mind, a bit of a doo-doo site now.
Yeah, I mean, I think every kind of initial site is starting to become that towards attackers. I mean, that kind of favourable towards attackers. You think about it, with the exception of potentially Cafe, that is the only one I would say is more defender-sided than the rest.
Agreed.
So with that being said, I mean, I can easily see Triton again taking this round. The thing is, though, Ludens now have information to what Triton want to do with that first initial push into Master, gain control onto 90, and on top of that red landing, and then the late push over in towards Study. But all in all, that was a beautiful execute from Triton.
It really, really was. The main reason why my heart actually skipped the beat is because of the fact that the moment they grabbed control of landing in 90, I immediately thought of Team Trident going for a default plant behind the vault door. That is just what you expect. That is what we have grown accustomed towards seeing on Villa. It is just standard attacking play. And then I saw Matems with the diffuser over by Study, and I thought to myself, huh? What on God's green earth are you doing this time? It makes absolutely no sense. But regardless as to whether or not that was just improv on the spot and they managed to work with it and roll with it and just get the round victory, you know what? Doesn't even matter. They were able to secure it, and that's all that really needs to be said. This time around, though, I'm pretty sure the Team Trident realized that going for that kind of gamble, especially when you've got 15 seconds left to work with, is something that you shouldn't be betting your bottom dollar on. They're going to be doing things by the book this time around, but I believe they've actually paid even less attention towards that overextension compared to last time. It might be something that they don't want to deal with.
Yeah, remember they're actually playing 5 versus 5 this time and not 5 versus 4 after that beautiful shot from Proctor K, putting lots of, phantom pressure. One player on that wolf window. Proctor K again with the entry frag. That's Octagon, that's the Hyena. That's great play. That's the Wamai getting that frag. So far so good for Ludens, but again, Triton, they have the skill, they have the ability to bring this back. And again, it looks as if we thought it was an initial flat take in towards main, but it doesn't look to be the case. But replay from below, able to take off. Oh no, please don't tell me. Was that a glitch? Potentially no Legions there. The Legion being able to get away, but no! Replay getting that frag. That's well played from Triton. That's them evened out the man count, and there goes your Legion. Those Legion mines that can be produced from his pocket is no longer going to be the case.
Oh man, KK is going to be writing a very, very aggressive email towards Ubisoft later tonight. Gosh, why did my feet have to clip through the staircase? It cost me potentially even the round, but guess what, Ludens? You guys have to brush that off your shoulder and continue powering through. 75 seconds left to work with. Just under that, actually, I should say, because doing math on broadcast is a big no-no. And Team Trident, they are actually working with far less control than in the previous round. But sooner rather than later, they're going to realize that 90 has been completely vacated. Matems once again can get to work on breaching that open. Proctor down below will actually be taken out in that 1v1. Replay wins the duel, and now Ludens, they're getting slapped across the face with a sense of PTSD. It is the exact same position that they found themselves in round 1. Question is, are they going to be able to pull through? Are they going to be able to hold down the fort? C4 doesn't connect with the actual Selma charge, so Vault is going to be rendered unplayable entirely, but Benji, he continues to persist, at least for the time being, as Team Trident, they're starting to ingress towards the bomb site. Benji, no! Offers himself up, and Trexno's going to eat him up. He eats up a second onto Gady, and it's all down to Jiobu. With 15 seconds left to work with, the plant is surely going to go down, but we might not even get to see it, and surely we don't. Replay is going to put a swift end to Jiobu, and just like that, we have Team Trident 2 for 2 on AVG.
Yep, well, Triton finally showing up and showing the form that they did last season, being that dominant force that we know. Maybe they just don't, maybe it's just that against Ludens they decide to turn up. Maybe it's just, I don't know. But thing is, though, the one thing that we do know is we're heading to Trophy and Stature for the first time, and they are bringing a Frost. Something that I've seen kind of be brought out is, see that leftmost panel in towards the statue side?
Yep.
That creating that long angle all the way through in towards Closet that we've already seen being created, but the Frost holding it down with that 1.5. It's absolutely beautiful to see, and I just saw a swap for a Jaeger. Was that a Wamai for a Jaeger there?
Yeah, that was. And I think the main reason why Ludens might be going for this particular pick is to actually, well, contest Closet just a tad bit more competently. But I don't think that's actually on their agenda because of the fact that there's a clear absence of a castle. So they're just probably going to be playing this by the book, at least I would assume, with a little bit of good old Ludens flair thrown into the mix as well. But naturally, as you just stated, our attention is going to be focused over towards those Pogmats because they are in some very precarious positions, and if Team Trident don't gather proper information, then trust me, they are in for a rude awakening.
Oh yeah, big time. Well, Triton only do a lot of work, but the drones are actually in towards the study side again. Maybe Triton are just going for the path of least resistance. Maybe this is just what they think it's best to do. Catch Ludens off guard and just collapse on the roamers that are, away from sight. Using that man advantage to actually leverage control on towards, the players that are left. I always think of Ludens as like a Jose Mourinho Chelsea side. They seem to get dominated all game, but just somehow manage to win out the map or win out the match. We'll need to see if that is the case, if they can replicate that form, because let's be honest, Triton, they're showing us to be the winners so far.
I hope for the Ludens' sake that, sure, the glory days of Jose Mourinho on Chelsea were way back in 2013/2014, but Ludens need to act in the here and the now for the time being. That's what we want to see from them. We have a very, very heavy presence committed over towards this AVG portion of the map as Benji is trying to duel things out. He was already taking a couple of drones along with him, so he could potentially vacate, but into the open and awaiting arms of replay he goes, and down he goes more importantly. Now it's down to Gady, who does have a rotate back into 90, but they're gonna overstay their welcome by the looks of it to see if they can secure a trade in rapid time.
Well, they'll need to try and find something here, Two Doors, because again, it's getting precarious, it's getting worrying for Ludens. The roam just isn't working, and Octagon get another kill onto Proctor K. Gady is still alive, being able to return from the roam. But the thing is, though, look at all the trades coming out there. It's down to 3 versus 2. Ludens doing a bit of work here, but the thing is, though, the man count's still in favour of Triton, and they still have a lot of work to do with, decent time with 2 players left.
Indeed they do. Giobu and KK, they're gonna die, apparently? What? Okay. Oh, man. Where do I even begin? What?
What? Well, let's be honest here.
Huh?
Something that we're seeing is just Triton dominance. Triton are just showing up here. This is the first time we've seen the Triton form that we know. Like this just can't be looked over. Ludens can do the best as they can, but Triton are just finally we're just getting to see them in what would you say, like their habitat?
Yeah, and their natural habitat. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of give everyone a bit of colour to those, or give you a bit of colour. 64% in favour of Team Triton for this match. That's how much kind of skill and ability that Triton have, that people still believe that after two match losses that they'll still win against Ludens, especially after us seeing Ludens go undefeated so far.
There is also another very, very interesting thing that we have to bring up. In the event that Team Triton do win this matchup, and by the way, it's starting to look very, very likely, they could potentially end off this matchup, or this first half of the flawless attacking half, but the main reason why this is so important is, keep in mind, Ludens, they are still neck and neck with the Frogs in contention for a pole position. If Team Triton are able to take this particular win away from the Ludens, then that basically doesn't actually force Ludens back to square one, but it throws a massive wrench into their own works, and they may run out of contention with the Frogs for that first seed, essentially disrupting all of the Ludens' plans. Yeah,
not only that, Two Doors, another thing we need to point out, is IOM next week for Ludens.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, that team, let's be honest here, are just ridiculous.
They are.
That team could easily take points. But enough about next week, more about this week. Triton 3-0, looking to actually attack AVG again, and we've already seen them win it 2 successive times. Ludens, not going to say it. In fact, you know what? I'm going to say it. They could be looking desperate. Let's be honest.
I don't know.
They could.
A desperation pick would be living room and library, but I would actually approve of that, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, because, you've already been to the two, the two kind of meta picks, the 2 ones that the defenders are meant to win, and then Triton have just decided that's their site. That's theirs. The defenders don't exist anymore. But
missed opportunity from Proctor.
Yeah.
One player had already vaulted in, and he looked away at the wrong moments. He could have potentially gotten himself the opening frag onto Octagon, but it just slipped right through his fingers.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a great roam though. I mean, thing is though, roamers, they don't need to get kills. What they do need to get is time. Look at the time. Look at the clock. That's great play. I mean, maybe this is what Ludens need to do. Stop playing for frags. Stop playing aggressive. Just play the delay.
One thing that I've noticed in the 3 rounds, including this one that we have since visited AVG, is that Team Trident have been on a downward trend despite the fact that they are still putting up results. Each and every single one of their attacks is starting to look far less efficient, but somehow, some way, they're always able to pull through as Replay finds ahead of Benji. That means that 90 Control can now firmly be grabbed, but Team Trident, they gotta start giving these rounds just a tad bit more gas. 45 seconds left to work with, and now they're gonna be cranking things up to 11, as efficient as possible, but that 90 breach, it might not be open just yet. KK, he's still got 1 Pokeball left to try to deny one of those Selma charges, and there's only 1 left. If Matems doesn't secure this, then oh no, Vault is no longer a viable avenue for Team Trident. They're gonna scramble for some kind of Hail Mary onto the bomb side. Gyobu outright denies Trexo, and that puts us back in a 4v4 scenario. The Ludens, they're looking stronger than ever, but it may start to falter as Gyobu falls. Octagon finds a second as well. The bomb side is open for business as Sardine falls. Replay is able to clap back, and it's all down to Gady. 2 seconds left. The plant needs to go down. Matems, where are you? But you know who's here? Octagon, shining so damn bright, finds a triple kill. When Team Trident almost looked out of contention, they pulled through and they find 4 rounds unanswered.
My god, Octagon puffs his chest out and says, this is why I'm the IGL, this is why I'm the leader. He shows them 3 kills he got at the end of that round and 2 doors. My god, Triton, I mean, to pull that round from the grasp of Ludens. Ludens almost had that done, but they just couldn't win when it came to the mechanical gunfights.
No.
It seems as if Triton have the ability. I mean, do you know what? I'm gonna give them commendations here, right?
Yeah.
Because what Triton are doing is, instead of rushing things, they're taking it slow, right? And you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's kind of boring, like, why are you taking it so slow? But the thing is, though, the fact that they're taking it slow, they're taking it methodical, they're making sure they're doing the right things. It was a minute 30 before they got into the map. Let's remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, the roamers had a great roam. That they did their job, but then Triton just like that. Right, okay, guys, let's go and win our gunfights then. Like,
yeah, it's how do I even put this into perspective, and how do I actually even sort of turn my thoughts into actual sentences? Team Trident, sure, they may be built different, sure, they may be constructed alternatively, and when it came down to the dirty business, that round was an utter powder keg that just blew up in the face of Ludens. But the one thing that I actually did want to highlight once again is something that I said not even 2 minutes ago. You can go ahead and rewind the Twitch feed, which I know is impossible. Sure, on YouTube, we're not streaming to that, but you can go and watch the VOD back. I said that Team Trident's overall efficiency had taken a downward trend towards claiming control of the map and mounting their execution over towards AVG, yet they still are able to deliver, which is so mind-boggling that Ludens cannot compete with it. At each and every single turn, Team Trident are just able to pull out a magical bunny out of their top hats and clutch up when it's needed.
Yeah, definitely. Octagon doing a good play there to use Diana drone to peek just to see if there's anybody in towards Master. And I mean, Benji giving away his position and falling bait to that. Proctor K though taking out Sardine. There goes your sledge. There goes all vertical. I say all vertical pressure. Most of your vertical pressure on towards this site, and that's huge. I mean, sledge is almost essential for the site 2 doors. He is, I mean, gonna make sure that the options are pretty limited now.
Oh!
And a great trade from Octagon to take out Geo. So now with that being the case, we finally see Ludens take an effective man count, but Proctor K and Benji still have the roam upstairs, and every time we've seen majority of the time we've seen the roamers getting clapped on.
Oh my.
And, that was very, very close to Proctor K's head, but he still manages to keep alive. Replay sneaking in through the back though. We see the outlines. Can Proctor K actually still stay alive? I mean, sneaking through the back of sight, but will Proctor K actually drop down? It doesn't look likely. Still persisting above. Replay potentially looking the wrong way. I mean, he'll get confirmation that he is in towards Trophy. Getting ready to swing from Statue. Will he get the kill? No, he's beating back and forth. But now the Jaeger knows exactly where his position is.
Okay, and Replay tries to go in to capitalize, but Benji is able to shut him down before he even gets the chance. Matems and Trexno is down to this duo right here to see if they can clutch up and keep the flawless win streak for Trident alive. Not by the looks of it. Proctor, he was doing his best impression of the Halo Infinite Desert, but he has gotten a 4th kill, so that 3-4-3 scoreline, it doesn't even matter. He's able to find 2, a total of 5. Proctor, the only impact that he has had throughout this entire matchup until this very round was being able to bag Ludens, that entry frag. Out of 5 rounds of play, he was there for Ludens, and he got the entry 3 times out of 5, which is absolutely massive. But this time, he was able to go above and beyond that, and it was so fabulous to see.
Well, the good thing is, though, Tudos, is Ludens have finally achieved 2 things. You're asking, what's the 2 things, Cairo? Well, the 2 things is they've won a round and they've stopped trying going flawless. That's essentially all they've achieved with that round so far. They've won the tertiary site, they've gained a bit of momentum. So now that means that they could hopefully build on, maybe win EVG, because every time we've returned to EVG, which is 4 times now, well, 4 times now, I mean, it's been looking convincing every single time. You've been saying that the effective trend has slowly been going on a downward spiral for Triton. We saw it come down to a knife's edge and that the last time we visited here, but with that being the case, do we finally have the answer from Ludens actually being able to win that out and gain that tad bit of confidence?
I don't know. See, I think that Ludens, they were taking all the right steps in the last round. We saw that they played a very, very conservative roam game last time around, and this time there is a small little adaptation. They won't be opening up that long angle. The entire triple wall is going to be reinforced over by statuary, so that could have some kind of difference. Not exactly sure what it's going to be. We'll just have to wait and see. But last time around, the main point that I'm harking at is that Ludens had a very competent roam game. They were very conservative in their play style. They were taking out drones and falling back towards the bomb site, but when it came to the critical moments of the round in that 4v4 scenario with like 30 seconds left, that's where they lost. I don't want to say that I'm certain that if we return to that kind of point where there's a 4v4 or a 5v5 scenario with 30 seconds left, that Team Trident are going to outright win it, because that's where Ludens were faltering. And, more importantly so, we can see how greedy Proctor is for the time being. Sure, he might be over by zombie, but he is still hungry. His jowls are salivating for frags. If he's able to bag, at the very least, 1 for Team Trident very, very early on, then I'm very, very certain on the fact that this round will be set in stone for the Ludens. Benji sat in a hot tub. He was farming T3 subs on Twitch, but he's since been forced off because he violated TOS.
Yeah, well, I mean, that Twitch meta is down, but, I mean, the info denial meta is still very much alive. His Vigil actually escapes with, I mean, less than 25 HP, but with that being said, he can actually stay below and activate his ability and just kind of make sure that Triton are uncomfortable. Replay taking a ton of damage from that red line, and I believe it was probably Proctor K putting that 416 carbine bullets through his body, but I mean, he's only peppered up. He's not actually finished his meal. That being the case, though, Tudos, so far so good for Triton. They've cleared out the roam so far. I mean, they just need to gain information to confirm the map control, and they just need to move through. But with that being the case, I mean, oh, actually, I just noticed 90's actually free, so if they get a drone up there, I mean, this could actually be looking a lot better than what I thought. I thought the roamers had done a good job, but Benji is still below.
Unfortunately enough for Team Trident, well, information may not be the grandest of luxuries, seeing that, well, on the side of Ludens, they have a lot of info denial operators and are going to be rudely interrupted by an absolute flurry of kills that, surprise, surprise, are actually working in the favor of Ludens, as Replay will be picked up back to 20 HP. It means we are set at a relatively even playing field in terms of man count and overall HP pools. Benji, down below, over by Astra, I believe. He's waiting for the right opportunity to pounce, but Giobio has to keep his life in tow, and he doesn't. Sardine comes in through, apparently through study and delivers. Finds not one but 2 frags, and here's Benji. This could be the saving grace. He strikes, he finds the first, he needs more, but he can't secure it. Matem shuts him down, and he gets the second onto Proctor as well. We have visited AVG 4 times in this first half. And we have lost it on the defense 4 times in this first half. Am I barking at the wrong tree, guys? AVG is a doo-doo bomb site. Stop visiting it. Widen up your pool. It is needed in this current meta.
Well, I'm gonna say something. Look at the the score, the match rating, sorry, from these players. Replay, Octagon, and Matoms, Sardine are all above 1.0. Trexno just a little underneath it. Triton are on fire. My God. But the thing is, though, Thatcher being 6th picked off of? Surely not.
Oh, okay.
No, right, okay. I was waiting with bated breath there. But the thing is, though, maybe something that we could put a spin on is the fact that Thatcher is alive, Toodles. While we might not have seen the impact in first hand, but the fact that Thatcher is there could potentially mean this is what's upsetting Ludin's plans with when it comes to potentially the utility side of things. But something I want to see is, it's not the utility side of things that Triton are winning on, it's just gunfights. It's just sheer mechanical ability.
I mean, don't get me wrong, at the end of the day, at some certain point in the round, you have to win out 5 separate gunfights, and Team Triton have been able to deliver on that aspect in almost each and every single one of the 6 rounds we have just witnessed thus far. This time, though, shoes on the other foot. Ludens are going to be on the attack. They technically are on the much more favored side, so it would be expected of them to be able to deliver as well. But Team Triton, given the fact that, as you stated, their mechanical skill is just 1 or 2 tiers above that of Ludens, I fear that Ludens may not be able to stay competitive on this attacker side.
Well, we need to find out here too.
Octagon.
Proctor K is just the king of shutting players down, and Octagon down, and the Jaeger. That's a huge pick. That's the Rome almost shut down, but Sardine is still gonna perpetrate. Make sure that he is the man on a mission. Make sure that he can potentially catch players off guard. Maybe a C4 being pre-placed from below, but we'll need to see, as Replay is there to support. Maybe trying to rotate back to red and...
Huh?
I was going to say... What?
That was placed underneath the bathtub. That is,
Man just hates hot tub streamers, that's what it is.
Yeah, he does. He's, I'm pretty sure he's going to be sending this clip off to Twitch to try to get them to change their TOS, because we can't have that stuff on Twitch. It's for video games, ladies and gents, and that's exactly what we're watching. Benji shuts him down, punishes him for not knowing Villa all too well as a map, and just like that, Team Triton, well, they're left in a 3v5 scenario. Man disadvantage now on their side, and it's going to continue to expand. Actually, no. Proctor is injured, but he's on the bomb side as well. Giobu soon to follow, as he is, well, technically forced out by that toxic babe. There goes Proctor, as KK is able to, well, sort of stabilize things for the Ludens, but Trexno, he claps back. He shuts down Benji, and here comes Trexno on the top of the main staircase. He's hungry for more, but no one's there to meet him for the time being. Shuts down the defuse plant, but Gady's reactions, they're instantaneous. Shuts it down before it gets out of hand, and we have the Ludens finally showing some signs of life as they find their second round.
Do you know the heartbeat monitor? It's just started again. It's just started again for Ludens. It's slowly starting back. But the thing is, though, I mean, that's 5 times on AVG, 5 times in favour of the attackers. So, with that being said, and us returning back to AVG 2-dos, maybe, potentially, it's all up to Ludens. Maybe it's actually, I mean, advantaged attackers, this full map, but we already kind of alluded to the fact that it's 60% when we go to statistics in favour of these attackers.
True.
So, with that being the case, maybe Triton aren't as strong as what we thought. I'm posing the question, maybe it's just the attacking side that's stronger. So, with that being the case, we move back to, we're going to go through AVG and see what Ludens have in store for us, but I can imagine them doing the exact same thing as before, because why broke if it... No. Why fix it if it ain't broke?
Very, very true. The one thing that was kind of broke and does need to be fixed on the side of Triton was sort of tampering down that overall greediness. I love the fact that Octagon went for a very high risk, high reward play, but he wasn't reaping any of the rewards, going for that early pick on towards, I believe it was Proctor, who was able to shut him down in response. The key part about playing AVG as a bomb site is ensuring that you're able to either A, scrim as much as possible over towards trophy and statuary with the attackers as they are flooding on in, and then vacating that portion of the map to reinforce your anchors, or well, just getting a couple of kills. Team Trident were nearly able to accomplish the latter, and that could have been sort of the seed of success last time around. I think, and by the looks of it, they're going to be playing things a tad bit more conservatively. They don't have any direct presence on that northern portion of the map. Instead, they've sent down some extra players, specifically Replay, with the C4 in his back pocket. And it's going to be pre-placed, just waiting for Ludens to walk into their own death trap over by 90.
Look at this drone, it's actually placed really well, so they do have information of the players on towards books. But, I mean, map control is all in favour of the Ludens. They don't have anybody contesting them, they're just using the drones and the Ayana replicator to just confirm what they already know, that everything is theirs. So with all players kind of being committed to almost, I would say, a lurk, I mean, maybe this is the play, maybe this is the new Villa meta. You don't actually need to do this extensive roam that we've been seeing, kind of the meta so far in terms of Villa. Oh no, is this a run out? Is this potentially Replay? Why Replay's sitting there waiting for the 90 player?
I think he's just going to play it very, very patiently and try to let his utility do the talking. There's no need for him to go for a run out when he can do toss out the C4 when he can do this instead. That's the line that I want to say, but I won't get the opportunity to say it. Replay has ruined my day, and Trexno's day is going to be ruined because of the fact that he has just been injured. We'll have to wave goodbye to Sardine as well. He's just been taken out by KK, and that leaves Team Trident in an effective 5v3 scenario now that it has been confirmed. Gady is also in the DBNO status, can be picked up back to 20 HP, and there's 55 seconds left to work with. Time is aplenty on the side of the Ludens.
Yeah, definitely. So is map control. Look where all these players are, and I mean, they can leverage that in whatever way they want. Proctor K taking a ton of damage. I believe that was from the SMG11 of Matums. Replay now in towards site, making sure to hold down this bar area. And two players in towards Vault, trying to shut down in towards the aviator room. Will be questionable, I would say. Maybe they could get picked off really easy. Replay trying to recontest in towards Study where this sledge is, but is the sledge going to get caught off guard? We need to see. But the diffuser is nowhere near sight. They're just holding down angles, and maybe Mission Critical could come out. Octagon with a great swing here, 2 doors, as the timer goes red.
Oh my goodness, it's an utter slaughter on both ends. This Giobu, he's got 5 seconds left to work with. He fell off the plant, and he will be decapitated by Replay. And ladies and gentlemen, I know it is a win. It is a dub for the defense on AVG. I wasn't expecting it to happen at all whatsoever.
No.
Team Trident had little to no business in actually winning that round whatsoever. It was a 5v3 scenario for Crimini's sake. The Ludens, they were in the driver's seat, whichever way you would slice it. And then somehow it collapsed. It started off with Replay. I believe it was Replay was on the Malusi, finding a kill onto the player outside of the vault breach. Then remaining as mobile as possible, going back towards U-Bar and contesting Study, shutting down the player inside of there. The only presence that Luden had over towards Study was the sledge of, I can't remember who it was. It must have been Benji or Gady at the time.
Yeah.
They killed out that player, and then it was just an utter collapse. The last 2 anchors, who, by the way, were left inside of Vault, which had been breached, got the last 2 kills, and just like that, chapter was closed. That's another thing that I want to highlight. Team Trident have got some pretty massive balls for staying inside a vault when it was breached open. It's ridiculous.
See the thing is though, 2 doors, right? It comes down to this age-old question of you can have as much utility as you want, but when it comes down to gun skill, I mean, what can you do? I say age-old question, age-old saying, I should say.
Not a mucho.
You know what I mean? Like, the thing is though, Triton lost basically everything in terms of strategy and utility, I would say. Yeah, everything was going in favour of Ludens. Ludens literally just needed to chill, make sure they got the plant down on the default, and and not push anybody. But then they decided, right, let's just throw bodies at Vault. And when that happened, I mean, Triton just popped off, and when that becomes the case, you're not going to win rounds. Don't throw bodies at situations, use your brain.
It got very disconnected, and Replay just went absolutely nuclear. I think it was a triple kill, if not a quadra kill, to close off the round, and now they're currently top of the server in terms of frags. The first of any of the 10 players to hit double digits in terms of kills. Replay is having a glorious start off to week 3 of Bool.
Do I know why Replay is actually doing the best in the server?
Tell me.
He's Scottish. Well,
Fair.
It looks as if Ludens are actually going to go towards Master for their push. They're not going to try to recreate what Triton did and go from the opposite side, the path of least resistance. Looks as if most of the bodies are committed towards Master. That is your Thatcher, that is, I believe, the Ace and the Ayana. So, with that being the case, two doors, I mean, there's plenty of utility there to deal with whatever is in front of them, whether that be reinforced walls, whether that be the shields that we just seen. So, with that being the case, Ludens, they're going to commit Gady actually towards the other side. So while I say the most important, the large part of the push is coming from this Master side, there is a small part of it that is towards the study side.
Indeed. Gady was actually on Zombie Repel, but was since relocated elsewhere, probably to have some more impact, and impact is needed. We have 70 seconds left to work with, and it may be a collapse. We'll just have to wait and see, as Bathroom is now engulfed in smoke. Gyogu can't force his way through, and they desperately need to. If they're able to dispose of Matems, then it would be a great start. And what's not a great start is that Selma actually hitting the chest as opposed to the deployable shield. But Replay, though, is able to kick things off. Gady's now down in the dirt. Entry frag now bagged on the side of Team Triton, but immediately reverted as Benji is able to get a trade. Matems, though, will ensure it remains with Triton. Octagon and Proctor each chime in, but guess what? It still favors Triton for the time being. KK and Benji, they have all so many different things to do for the time being, and not a whole lot of time to work with either. 25 seconds left as the diffuser needs to be recovered, and they somehow need to dislodge Matems, who has now expended their last toxic babe. KK can't push in through Bathroom. He is stuck, caught between a rock and a hard place as Benji tries to join in on the fun over by Zombie. He's checking his corners. Basic 101 CQC and finds the head of Trexno. This could be winnable, but he's shut down by Sardine. It's all down to KK, who can't, unfortunately, get the dub regardless. Matems, a thorn in the side of the Ludens, is the one to put the final nail in the coffin, and that is Team Triton taking 2 victories on the defense. The most victories we have seen on the defense on Villa tonight to close it off. 3 points in the bag, plus 5 round differential now added to their nameplates.
Well, something that I want to say here to those is the fact that we were promised a performance here. I was, at least. I told you about it. I mean, this is Replay showing us coming up good with that performance. Triton, I mean, they showed us what they're all about. They showed us why they are the champions of BU, and maybe this is their bounce back. Maybe this is where they start to go on. And remember, guys, with Ludens, I believe they play IOM next week, right? IOM are also up there in terms of being undefeated, right? So I don't know, maybe with it, you get a point deduction if you forfeit, if I remember correctly. So with them on 4 points, it's starting to get, we're starting to slowly see where the landscape lies with these teams.
It's true.
And Ludens could easily fall behind in the pack.
Yeah, this may have been technically the first step backward on the side of Ludens. The fact that they are coming out of this particular Playday with no points whatsoever means that the Frogs are able to propel themselves to that first seed, and now 3 points differentiates Ludens and the Frogs. And on top of that, what's actually that much more important is the fact that now Team Triton, because of the fact that they have come off of a near flawless win on Villa, they have added 3 points of themselves, which puts them just outside of the top 4 as well. So they are now starting to really show their true colors. And I know that what we're going to see from Team Triton as a team in general in the next couple of weeks is only going to start getting better and better. But the Ludens, I genuinely hope that they're not going to fall off, because they are a great roster. All things considered, they have what it takes, but they have to avoid Villa as much as humanly possible. That is the only thing I will say.
Well, I mean, they've won one, lost one on Villa 2 doors. But, I mean, there's only winners on this broadcast for us, because we got to see 2 amazing matches. We've seen Combat Wombats fall short to Frogs. Frogs continuing their dominance at the top of the table, and Ludens actually falling short. So, with that being said, we finally have a clear-cut first place for the first time in BU Season 3. So with that, I mean, the question is, will Frogs continue it?
I think they continue. I think they could.
Definitely.
Obviously, that does conclude the broadcast for this evening. We only had 2 matches as IOM unfortunately did have to forfeit their particular matchup against Veggie Patch. So Veggie Patch, they are able to walk away with an automatic win, but that's not all the action that we've got for this week. No. We've still got plenty of matches. Well, actually, not plenty, but just the 2 as well tomorrow for Tuesday Night Bowl. We have got Poggy Walkie going up against the Deviants at 6 p.m. BST. And then to close off week number 3 at 7 p.m. BST, we have got Team Atlas going up against 9. Those are 2 particular matches that you won't want to miss out on either. So we will see you tomorrow evening for the conclusion of week number 3 of Bowl Season 3. But before we do sign off, I would naturally love to extend a very, very big thank you and also a warm welcome to Aaron, who is stepping in for production in Noah's absence. He's been absolutely killing it, and things are only going to get better from here. As always, massive thanks to Science for killing it on observation, and to everyone else who is pulling their own weight and then some behind the scenes to make everything that we do here possible. But with that being said, we'd like to thank you guys so much for tuning in to Monday Night Bowl. We will see you guys tomorrow evening for the last 2 matches of week 3. Until then, take care of yourself, have a pleasant evening, and we'll see you soon.